Good evening, Money Boy Trey. Appreciate you dropping in, hitting us up. I appreciate that a whole lot, bro. Good evening. Also, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another show, another episode. Hey, I know I not posted on there that I was going to start at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, but I was kind of preoccupied for a few seconds, so I have to kind of keep pushing it back until till now until I got freed up. So now I'm freed up and we're good to go, everyone. Once again, I appreciate y'all tuning in today. Appreciate you tuning into the show today. If you're on there, you're watching either on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, I would encourage you to go ahead and like, follow, and please share the content as well too. Okay, so nevertheless, let's go ahead and jump into the show. Jump into this topic right now. Now, let me ask y'all a question. Okay, is it true that one bad apple will ruin the whole bunch? Is this a true statement? Is this a true analogy? One bad apple, would it ruin the whole bunch? Now look, imagine one day you're going to the grocery store. It could be any grocery store. Well, I know some of y'all probably go to Wally World or Walmart. Got some people that go to Kroger's or what's the other thing? Um, Lion something wherever they have out there. You know, HEB. These different type of stores out there, right? And you decide that you needed some fruit. So of course you go into the produce aisle and you see an apple, right? You see a whole um, crate full of apples. So you look at the apples, and the apples is looking good. It's looking delicious, and you want to purchase a couple of apples. As you grab in, you know how many apples that you want to eat. You notice that one bad apple. You notice that one bad apple right there. So naturally, as you being a human, you look at the bad apple and you become disgusted by it. You look at that bad apple, you like, ugh, oh my god. Why didn't Walmart or Kroger's or Lion Den or wherever store that you go to, right? Why did they didn't remove this bad apple? You feel disgusted by it. So here's the punchline to this. By you discovering this one bad apple, well, what is your choice? Do you proceed to put back the apples that you originally picked, or do you go ahead and keep the apples you originally picked but report that it's a bad apple in a bunch? Well, what choice do you do? Now, some of y'all may go ahead and just put the apples back that you originally picked because of this one bad apple that you seen. Some of y'all will keep the apples that you picked, but report the bad apple. Some of y'all will even go further to even get the bad apple and remove it altogether. So by me giving y'all this scenario, this right in our relationships, when we going out to try to figure out who we want to spend the rest of our life with, where we go out and we see all these different wonderful apples, all these different variety of apples, because apples come in different varieties. They come in the original red. Then of course you have the granny apples as well. Some of these apples they grow in size and shape depending on the harvest. But even then, you in relationships you go out and you see there are all different types of people that you interact with, and this goes for men and women. You see that they come in all different variety of shapes and forms of affection. Um, they come in all these different ways, right? So, and as you're going out and meeting these different people, or however way you decide to meet these different people, you always get that one person who is the exact opposite of what you're trying to look for. That one person who's not going to be fulfilling as the one apples that you're searching for. That one person who's rotten, who's bitter, who's not in the correct place in their life, who needs to be removed. So the question I want to submit to y'all today is this: just because you have an experience with that one bad apple, do that mean that all the apples is bad as well? Is this a true statement? Is this a true story? Is this a true narrative? Now, this is well, what I see. This is why different content creators who are out there right now. Who we got out there? We got the Kevin Samuels. We have Tommy Sotomayor who's out there. We have Cynthia G. We have Tonya TKO and these other content creators that are out there. I can truthfully say that they had a run in with that bad apple. Heck, they probably had a run in with many bad apples and decided that these bad apples is a representation of every bad apple. Or I put it to you this way: these bad people who they interacted with, who they had relationships with, they end up becoming the representation of everyone. They end up becoming the representation of everyone. This is where I draw the line at. Not everyone is the same. Of course, there are going to be many bad apples out there. Of course, there are going to be these bad apples or these bad people they're out there, where their sole purpose is to bring destruction in the relationship. But just because you choose to go ahead and pick up that bad apple and decide that, hey, I could do something with this bad apple, regardless if it's rotten, regardless if it got worms in or whatever, I'm gonna do something about this bad apple and I'm gonna make it work. Knowing good and well that apple is bad, knowing good well that apple is bad for you, you still want to do something with it. Maybe you figured that you could use that bad apple and that bad apple would still taste fine if you make apple pie out of it. Why am I saying this? It's because many men and women have this mentality thinking that they could use a bad apple or a bad person and make something good out of them. Many people do that. Heck, at one point in time in my life, I was doing it. I knew that the person who I was dealing with, I knew that the person who I was dating, I knew that they wasn't a good fit for me. But however, I had this mentality thinking that, hey, long as I'm a good person, my energy will rub off on them. Then they'll become a a good person as well. In other words, I'm trying to be a captain, saver. HOE, or or as Rush would adequately say, being a simp. That was the space that I was at in the past. So I get into this relationship with these different people, or these different women, knowing that they're a bad apple, knowing that they're not going to want to benefit me whatsoever. But yet and still, I try to get into this relationship and I try to change them. I try to conform them. I try to make them the way that I want them to be. But come to find out in the end, they wasn't beneficial at all. And this is what we do. Men and women do this. Where we take a person, knowing the person is not a good fit for you, and try to make them to something that they're not. Now, don't get me wrong, they can be capable of being great. But however, wherever situation happen, put them into that situation where they're no longer great or no longer beneficial. So therefore, when we try to go through this process of changing someone, we try to go through the process of try to make them sufficient, make them beneficial, make them relevant. But I want to tell y'all that just because you have that one experience or two experience or how many experience you have with that bad person, that doesn't dictate that all people are like that. I had to learn this lesson. This lesson was a very important lesson for my growth and evolution. I had to learn that the people who I was sitting around with, the people who was in my circle, I had to learn to vet these people. I had to learn to figure out, are they good? Are they beneficial for me? Even in my intimate relationships, I had to learn that. But in order for me to get full circle with that, I had to deal with certain situations with myself. I had to figure out, why were I picking these rotten, stinky, worm crawling inside women? I had to figure out why I was doing that. Once when I started figuring out why I was doing that, the next step is that I took accountability for that. And when I took accountability for that, I evolved from it. Then once when I evolved from it, I started learning how to pick wisely instead of picking foolishly. So tonight, I want to let y'all know the same process. I want to let y'all know that even though there are bad people out there, or you being in bad relationships, that doesn't dictate that every person is going to be the same exact way. Every person is not going to be the same exact way. Many people are out there right now, just like how I was. Many people are out there right now looking for that good apple, looking for that apple that's going to be beneficial to them, that's going to be good, that's going to be delicious, that's going to be sweet, it's going to be beneficial to their life. They are. But you have to position yourself to find the correct type of apple or the correct type of person. Now I'm really big on the law of attraction. I'm also big on on universal laws and universal principles as well. And one of the biggest things that I learned from this is that I learned about the law of karma. Either either you put out positive things, then the result positive things going to come back into your life, or you put out negative things, and negative things is going to want to come back into your life. So when I look at these content creators that I mentioned earlier, the Kevin Samuels, the Tommy Sotomayor's, the Cynthia G's out there, Tonya TKO out there, who all are creating this division and separation instead of true unity. Well, when I look at them, I understand exactly where they're coming from because I used to be in that space. I understand. I'm not going to sit up here and say that they're bad. They're bad because of what they're putting out there. I'm not. But what I am going to say is that they in a space right now where they're looking to find that good fruit. They're looking to find that good apple. But the only way they feel that they should find a good apple is by putting themselves out there by always addressing the bad ones, and that's what they're doing. But it had to come a time where you address that there also are great people out there that are really looking for the same thing, but you have to be on one accord. You have to be like minded. You have to be beneficial to each other. And being beneficial and like minded and all these things, it really don't have nothing to do with social economic status. It really don't. Do it play a role in it? Of course it does. But the overall nucleus of it deals with the mental and spiritual part of that person. So I'm challenging y'all today is to if you're in that space where you thinking that all men are trash, all men is just looking just to try to run over us and be all super macho, trying to control us, trying to manipulate us, not allowing women to be a woman. All men out there are dogs, and all they want to do is go around and sleep with women all the time and not respect you. And you're in that space, and you actually dealt with these bad apples. And likewise, men out there want thinking that all the modern day women, all they looking for is a suitor. All they looking for is the man money. All they looking for is just to take the man social status. That I want to challenge y'all that to change your mind, to change your reality. I don't want you to be naive in thinking that it doesn't exist because it does exist. But I want to challenge y'all to change your reality, to change your mind. I want to challenge y'all to evolve. I want to challenge y'all to look at things from both perspectives, not just one single perspective, but look at things from both perspectives. Look at things and understand why people are the way they are. That furthermore accept the person for how the way they are. Now, if you come across to these quote unquote bad apples, it's okay for you to accept it as being a bad apple. But it's also you to take accountability for it too, to want to determine if that bad apple is going to be suitable for you, if it's going to be suitable for your situation. If it's not going to be suitable for you, then don't pick it up. Don't entertain it. Don't try to go around and change it and saying that it's well, if I just add a little sugar to it, then it's going to be better. Or if I add a little caramel to it, it's going to be better. No, no, no. Don't do that. Accept it for what it is and move on to the better fruit. Move on to the better apple. What is going to be beneficial to you. So I'm just like I say, I know that that these different content creators, they're out there. They really promoted this narrative, and um, it saddens me that I see so much separation, but when there's potential for unity. Well, when I was on Dr. Jefferson platform the other night, Rush made an interesting comment. Overall, he was saying that he felt that it was no hope for us. It was no hope for relationships. That the relationships is just destined to be the way that it's on going right now, where it's destined to be destructive. It's destined for all of us to, just pretty much be single, not be married, or enjoy the fruits of being, truly married. Um, all these different elements. To be honest, even though I challenged him on it, to be honest with you, it does have some validity towards it because once again, when you're looking at that bad apple or that bad fruit, you're thinking that just because this one bad apple, bad fruit is part of the bunch, that it's affecting everything. But that's not truth. It's not truth. Yeah, it's not truth at all. So I wanted to present to y'all that it is hope. It is hope for men and women to come together in natural relationships. It's hope for us to be in some good relationships as well, good committed relationship, healthy relationships as well. It's possible, but it takes accountability. It takes for us changing. It takes for us to evolve. It takes for us to make a decision whether we want to follow a certain narrative or not. That's what it takes. I would like to speaking of which she must hear me talking about. But speaking of which, I'd like to welcome Dr. J to the platform. Good, hello, Dr. J. How you doing?
Hi, how are you guys tonight? Thank you for coming on.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So
So, what are you guys talking about? Tell me about these bad apples.
well, give me 1 second. I'm gonna explain it. But what I'm also gonna do, I'm gonna drop the link to just in case if anyone in the gym want to hop on here and share their perspective. All right. So, well, what I've been explaining to the audience is this: is that just because you have one bad apple, or it could be a couple of bad apples in a bunch, that doesn't determine that all the apples is bad. That's the one whole point of this. And then I was making on different
I was just about to
situations
say,
about it.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to give a good way to kind of look at it all. So, what if if you have all of the apples in the same bag and you have additional apples that are bagged up that are sitting on top of them for a couple of, let's just say, for a couple of days? What happens?
Well, well, did you talking about for us the bag or what? You got to kind of break it down a
What
little bit.
happens to all of the apples that are in the first bag that are mixed up with the bad apples? The good apples. What happens to the good apples that are in the bag with the few bad apples after
They
you've
become
had that,
rotten.
all of them in the same pack for
Hmm.
all that time? Right, right, right. So just a couple of days now. That's just a couple of days.
Hmm. Now,
So
now, notice the example that you're giving that these apples they're not in the open, but they actually stored in a bag.
Mm-hmm.
which potentially bad apples are there too. So according towards nature, if they be stored in a bag that long, then of course they're gonna begin to rot in the decay slowly one by one.
But see, the thing is, the idea is when we think about the relationships, are you talking about the relationships on the women in the Black community only, or are we talking about women abroad, everybody?
No, we talking about men and
Relationships
women.
abroad. Okay, so let's talk about the way that women have a direct influence on one another. If we look at that bag concept, right? Bagged apples are apples that are very much similar to one another, that have all been picked to be sold as a representation of one another,
Hmm.
right? So, for example, if we're a person that likes a gala, whatever that is, I don't need none of them. But those apples that are like red, orange, right? Or if you're a person who likes red apples, I personally only eat green apples because I like
Yeah,
everything a
Yo,
little
me
different.
too.
yeah,
Green
them
apples
granny
are
apples be
right.
Yeah,
good, man.
I
I
can't
love
eat
them
nothing.
granny apples.
I don't know why. I can drink apple juice that I've made juice from regular apples, but I still have to put green apples in my juicer too. I can't eat it by itself. You know what I mean? I can't eat regular apples, any of them.
Oh,
So,
before you finish your point, I like
mhm.
to welcome Rush on the show, even though he just jumped on here to start talking, and I also like to welcome Miss Sandy as well to the chat. Appreciate you on coming.
Yeah, Miss Sandy, you got to come over here. You know what I'm saying, to make sure we keep this conversation going. so, if you got all of these like apples that based off of first glimpse, they're pretty much all the same apple, correct? Because that's how men select women, correct? Typology. You guys have
Well,
a particular look.
typology is also used for like back in the day. That's how um people used to express their literature, like biblical aspects. Even Egyptians, they will use certain styles to mimic certain style. Well, they will use certain phrases and share it, yeah, and to get their point across. Not that
Mm-hmm.
they're copying verbatim, but they're
Mm-hmm.
paraphrasing it in the same style, which is
Yeah.
typology. Why would you
Right.
use that for the apples though?
Because it's the same thing. It draws people in with a like or a shared interest, right? So men who have a shared interest, for example, if you guys look at, okay, some men like voluptuous BBWs, some men like fit, muscular women, some men like fit, thick women, right? Some men like super thin women, some men like, what do they call it, slim thick?
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah,
that right
slim
there.
thick.
That's slim thick.
Right. Right. So you
Uh-huh.
have all of these. So the thing is, these are the first things that you guys consider when you're talking about what your preference will be for women. That's the first thing. Secondarily, a man is going to look underneath the hood. Okay. So then he may be more concerned with what does her, sexual activity look like, right? And then next, or her purviews on life, right? Is she a person that believes in having sex before marriage or not having sex before marriage, blah, blah, blah. Then you might ask some further questions like, okay, how smart is she? I don't know why y'all go in that direction, but whatever. I mean, in that order, but that's how it is with men, right? So the same thing applies to these apples. If women are, because women are the same way. If a woman is a miss, if she's a great woman, she's been a good woman her whole life, and you have waited as a man, the 3 days are going to represent the days that the woman goes through life to get into college, years, right? She's in college 3 years. So let's say she's been in college 3 years. The exposure of the women who are in her circle, that's the bag. They all look alike because these women like similar things. They like shopping at similar stores. They like to invest their money and time in similar things, right? These like-minded women otherwise have very different relationship patterns, very different ideals on life in general. But the longer these women are around and influencing this woman that is the good woman, is the apple then considered to still be good?
No, I'm gonna say
Why not?
I'm gonna explain why. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of dudes that engage themselves with females that they date, but they want to make sure they don't allow them to hang out with their friends that much because they friends, tend to be like, say for instance, if a dude's dating a chick and her friend has a reputation, that dude's gonna be he's gonna be, if he's smart enough and socially calibrated enough, he's gonna try his best to make sure he diminishes that relationship with um his girlfriend and his girlfriend's friend that's a hoe, because he don't want his girlfriend to do the whole activities with her, because really they're bad influence. I would consider that a rotten apple.
That's right.
Mm,
So so
interesting.
so here's the thing. The longer, when we think about the way that we look at relationships in American culture, the longer and the huge influencer on relationship perceptions in American culture is media, social media, environmental exposure to media, whatever, right? If we're people who are to literally be honest with ourselves, right? Everybody has the exposure to, what is that stuff called? Reality TV.
Yeah.
And right, so reality TV shapes a lot of the perceptions of young women and young men when it comes to what to expect and how to perform relationally speaking in relationships. Sometimes we can accredit, a TV show or two, movie or two, but it's not as
Right, but
often
that
as it
that
used to be
that
back in the day.
distorts that distorts their perception on what a relationship
Exactly.
is supposed to be.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Hmm. So media can be considered to be the bag of the select few bad apples, but infiltrating all of these good women that come from solid, sound households, families of origin that taught them how to be a great woman. But now they're out here amidst the media exposure, environmental exposure, social exposures with women who don't believe in investing in relationships, with men that don't believe in investing in relationships, therefore being used, abused, influenced negatively. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree on that. Social media has changed the game to the point where the average man cannot date a chick, because the average chick is she has access. First of all, the average chick has a plethora full of options, to the point where she can actually holler at the top 20 percenters. You know what I mean? Whether it be a football player, a rapper, they're gonna slide them into the DMs.
So, what do you think, the official urban therapist? Do you think that due to the influence of society and media, that there can become more bad apples than there are good apples, essentially, in the bunch of women to select from?
Well, to be honest, no, because I view it as that it's an individual choice. Even though these are narratives out there, just like I was stating earlier, even though it's out there, at the end of the day, it becomes a choice to whether if that person wants to choose to be, um, as we say, a bad apple or not. That's where it boiled down to. Then they also boil down to the accountability of the individual as well too. And that's why I was referencing a lot about Kevin Samuels, Tommy Sotomayor, Cynthia G, and Tonya TKO content that they put out there, because they at the end of the day they experience these type of bad apples within their personal relationships, and so now they're sharing their truth and their reality of these bad relationships and sharing it to others. But just because they're sharing it to others, it still comes to a point of accountability for the individual to either accept the narrative as everyone being bad apples or not.
So, Do you think by their sharing their perspectives, right? Do you think it automatically gets people to jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, these men ain't shit, yeah, these women ain't shit? Or do you think it's more so these men and women who hear them sharing their perspectives now feel more validated in their position that, men ain't shit, women ain't shit, because they've also had those same negative experiences?
Yeah, it's
Well,
to be honest with
they
you,
have those.
it's all of that. To be honest with you, it's all of that. Like say for example, with my situation, when I was dealing with the divorce with my wife, well my first wife, I was the man who was in it. Every woman was out to destroy a man based on my space or based on my reality, how the way I was choosing. So therefore, if I'm in that space right now, then I'm going and sharing my experience to other people, who possibly was dealing with the same situation or possibly have the same type of mentality. Of course, they're going to gravitate towards that and start creating into their own reality.
Do you think that has a lot to do, like our topic tonight on my show was submission, right? Do you think that has a lot to do with why women will no longer submit? Because men are so many times in that cycle of brokenness?
We're not talking about that. This ain't your show. Don't try to take over my show. What's wrong with you?
No, no, no. I'm just saying, like, do you think that that's number one reason that women don't want to invest in men? Because that's something that could make women become bad apples when they think about submission in a negative context. Context. Like, I think you got off before you saw the Al Show's comment, but he considered he's a male, right? I mean, a white male, but still he's a male, and so he said that submission equates to control, right? So what if all women thought the same way? And as a result, men never gained submission of their women, and relationships became very toxic as far as communication and respectability politics. Then more women become bad apples because they are a bad fit for men. No?
I mean
So
that could be part of the reason, but there's other things you have to factor in too. Why women don't want to submit to men? Period.
and is it really our women who don't want to submit, or just the ones who is in a current state of mind
Of the
thinking that
brokenness.
way?
Right. I think it's only the ones who are thinking that way. But the problem becomes, remember, like I told you before, influence. So talking about bad apples don't become bad apples without influence or experience. So life can yield bad apples because they've had negative experiences, or influence from other people's life experience can yield bad apples out of these women because they see their friends having negative experience, but also they see negative experiences to be a normative thing on scripted reality TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Since we're talking about this, let me ask y'all this question: what creates a bad apple? What make an apple eventually becomes bad or rotten?
Bad behavior.
When it's not fit for consumption.
How do we get to that point?
Experience or exposure.
Or I didn't hear you, Rush. I'm sorry.
You know, what I mean, well, what I put out is probably totally different from what Doc's saying. But what causes a rotten apple is I would use bad behavior, well,
Hmm.
unacceptable behavior.
And I'm talking about the actual fruit, the actual apple itself. What would cause it to get to the point where it's a bad apple? What caused it to happen?
Wait a
I
minute.
think it applies both ways.
You
No,
mean
I
literally
know
the
it
apple,
applies to a relationship, but I'm talking about
or
preferably.
metaphorically?
Yeah, I'm talking
You
about
mean
preferably naturally the apple itself. What would cause the apple to get to that state?
Of riding
Exposure.
it,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess.
Go ahead. I said experience or exposure. So exposure to the element or experiences in their elemental exposures. So it could be kicked around, pushed around, tossed around, exposed to the sun, sat on the shelf for too long, shelf life, right? So that could be experience as well. Um, Exposure could be, like I said, the kicked around, tossed around, jumbled around, frozen, then thawed, then frozen, then thawed, and transition. And if you're trying to take it from one state to another state, in order to sell it, those things, same thing. But I
Yeah.
think that's the same thing with people too. That's why I think that's
hmm
why folks have that connotation of, they have that kind of point of reference between the apple and people, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What about manipulation or
Yeah,
trying to enhance it to make it be more than what it is?
that's the
Are you
exposure
talking about
component.
GMO now, or
Huh?
Yeah,
are we talking about people?
GMO is manipulation. That's
hmm
manipulating the apple.
Yeah. So yeah. So we're talking about it naturally. Now we can also talk about for us people too, because everything y'all mentioned, I agree with. I agree with. I'm just trying to just pull it out of y'all. But yeah, there are different elements that cause this. Even with people, there are different modification enhancements. There's the exposure where we could look at that for us, like social norms that are out there. That could be an exposure. That could be upbringing. All these different factors that are out there that will ultimately create a bad apple.
Mhm.
So I have another question for y'all. Is it possible for, even though the apple is in the bad apple is in the state that it is it possible for that apple to become good again?
No.
No. Once it's rotten, that's it. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever heard the story of the fig tree, but if the fig tree, if there's a portion of the fig tree's rotten, in
Mhm.
order to, in order to preserve that entire tree, you got to cut off the branch that's rotten. I mean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But I think that repurposing, rebirth has a lot to do with the process. So if we think about the fruit and its usefulness, right? Apples in particular, if the apple rots, the seeds don't. So if we are to get rid of the entire apple, take the apple apart, right? Go to the core of the apple and replant the seeds in the proper soil, we can give birth to a new type of apple, right? A new apple altogether. So I
Right,
think
but
that happens,
what
that's the reference I use in
what if
therapy
the
too.
what if the apple has been manipulated with GMO? It's not going to have any seeds inside of it.
There are certain cloning machines that clones the seeds as well.
Yeah, but even that narrative rush is still going to make the apple useless, because it's not going to be able to create what is new. It's not going to be able to correct what is new. So you could the you could go into the core of the apple, you could take the seed out, and it could be replanted, it could be repurposed. But at the same time, in order for that to happen, that rotten apple had to be terminated, correct? In order for it to be beneficial.
I guess terminated into getting the seeds out of it. Is that what you
hmm
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, then yeah.
Yeah, so if that be the case, then let's talk about this forced relationship. If we know that this is the reality of the situation or the narrative, right? Why do we try to um, repurpose bad apples where they don't have no fruit, that they don't have no seeds, to try to repurpose themselves or nothing like that? Why do we attempt to do that in relationships, knowing it's going to be unfruitful, knowing it's not going to be beneficial?
because it's always easy to revert back to your old bad habits.
Yeah, which that's good. That's a good point, Rush. So at the end of the day, it comes right back to what I was saying earlier, right, about accountability. Once when you discover that bad apple, it's not going to be beneficial from you. The next step is to remove it, get rid of it, and choose better, right?
Yeah, but if 99.9% of the population is rotten, how do you survive?
Well, what we was talking about earlier, what we was talking about earlier about the seeds. Now, even now, let's just say that there's some apples who of course have the GMO and they don't have no seeds. So we already know that their purpose is going to be terminated and it's just going to be what it is. But at the same time, the other one riding apples who actually didn't go through the GMO process and they have seeds is going to end up ultimately be on repurpose. And that's the same thing that um, you have these different you have these different apples that are out there and stuff, right? When they be repurposed, there it become beneficial, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, to that extent, yeah.
Yep. Oh, welcome, Jessica. Jessica. Oh, also, I meant to say welcome PMP too. I'm not seeing him on there. Welcome as well, bro. Sorry about
Yo, salute PMP. What up?
that. Jessica, you coming on here and you talking about all these other fruits, which is still mean the same as that thing. And what we talking about? Yeah, I mean the same as that thing.
So you believe that there is a solution with I guess the whole nuclear family dynamic? You think that's possible for that style of relationships to come back at some point? Is that what you believe?
Yeah, yeah, that's why I believe that then also the whole nuclear family relationship it never died. It does that the current narrative through social media is portraying it as though it died or is it dead, but it's not. Yeah, it's not dead at all. But yeah, I believe it is a solution, but behind the problem, the solution to the problem is deal a lot with accountability from both parts, and that's why I always talk about
Yeah, but
it's
most people aren't willing to admit that there's an issue. It's so easy to say. It's so easy for them to blame it on the next individual.
true. That's true. But at the same time, eventually that person will start taking accountability for their actions, depending on what will trigger it. Sometimes it takes certain traumatic events to happen where it would trigger accountability. Like once again, with my situation, it took for me to go through the process of going through the divorce with my first wife for me to realize there are certain actions that I need to address within my life and take accountability for it. There are other situations that could be put out there as well, where literally changed the whole course of somebody's life. But at the same time, Rush, there's this false narrative where it's 90% of the population that are riding apples. I just believe that's not true, and I believe that it's just the media and the social media that's portraying that narrative as though it is true, but it's really not true.
Let me tell you why it's true. Because of the influence of social media, and the single mother household, a lot of dudes are raised to be feminine. Some of them become homosexuals, and a lot of them become homosexuals, and a lot of them become transgenders. We have to factor in the leftist feminist movement, which which influenced them to not to engage um uh re- into marriage. They should seek their careers first, which is, that's just a road to destruction for the female. And then, the delusion of women divorcing their husbands at the age of 50, thinking that they could just bounce back from that, and believing that there's going to be another guy that's going to, marry them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Hmm.
shit is just crazy, man.
Yeah, that's true. Well, for sure, coming, Miss Sandra. Um, but we could blame the drivers, and we could blame the cars as well. The reason why we could blame the wrong drivers is because of certain accountability. Maybe they was driving on reckless, and they decide to do what they do and cause people to get into car accidents and die. We can also blame it on the vehicle itself, because um, vehicles are not um, perfect. Vehicles are not 100%. So vehicles can malfunction and
and
cause
cause
accident as well. So
So, I was listening, right? And I'm just I guess maybe I was trying to kind of allow you guys some space to see how, unbeneficial it is to look at blame in situations. So accountability and blame are very different. And when Rush said, it's easier to look at or blame another person, what I'm hoping people understand is that taking accountability for a thing has nothing to do with you taking responsibility for another thing, for that same thing. You don't have to be responsible for the outcomes of your relationship. You don't have to be responsible for the actions of other people, because you're not. Essentially, being accountable just means that we're calling a thing a thing. We see that things happen, and as a result of things happening and sometimes exposures that we have to things, our behaviors can sometimes be shaped or molded around these things that we see and we normalize as people. That doesn't mean that we're responsible for our outcome. That means that we are accountable to the exposures we allow ourselves to encompass as a part of our becoming. And so our outcomes could be very different. For some of us, it could be a positive outcome, even though we had negative exposures, because we had the right type of influence in our life. And for other people with the exact same types of exposures, it could go the other way because they didn't have the right type of energy in their life. So I think that we have to understand that experiences are a part of our growth process in life, whether they're negative or positive perceptually. And what they do for us is allow us to reseat ourselves after we see that, okay, we've been around some negative people. We see we've been, a conduit to toxic relationship behaviors, right? We see that these are things that we've seated ourselves amongst, right? And as a result of us learning that we've had these exposures and experiences, we decide to reseat ourselves, position ourselves in a different space so that we can maybe acquire better outcomes or more positive outcomes or different types of energy than what we've been drawing previously, because we know the ingredient list, right, for the negative outcomes, because that's all we've lived. But we can't continue in this space where we're going to blame and say, hey, you, and continue to complain without coming up with viable options as to how we bring all of that stuff in.
well, which I agree with all that, Dr. J. You nailed it. I agree with it.
I was looking at Jessica's comment. She said, get a peach, a pear, berries, fruits, nuts, pineapples, cherries, blueberries,
Yeah,
strawberries, kiwis, mango. Go ahead.
yeah. She does something on her, doing what she doing, being all um analytical and things. knowing good and well we talking about one particular fruit. What she doing? What's the better word? What she doing? She being rebellious. We talking about apples. She want to mention the whole fruit that
all
God
the other
designed.
options, right?
Yeah, all the other options, being rebellious
I
and
mean,
stuff.
I didn't want to point that out, because I didn't want to look like I was bashing her. But I'm glad you brought that up. You know what I mean? And this is the majority of women we got to deal with in society, man. Rebellious. You're
Yeah, men too, though, because at the end of the day, Kevin Samuel says, divest from the black woman if the black woman don't want to conform and get her shit right. Cynthia G says, Tonya TKO says, divest from the black man. Stop black man worship at all costs because they won't get their shit right. So I agree. People in society do feel like maybe you should be shopping in another fruit section.
that's not the solution. Like, whether if you deal with a chick that's Hispanic, African, or American, they all do the same shit. It's no different.
There you go. Exactly. There you go. Because so the bigger thing is this. When you say we're going to go against women, we're not going to be interested in or invested in women in general, because let me tell you something, you MGTOW men, y'all are good about that. What you really start saying is, well, we're going to be invested in another sex. What other sexes are there for you to be invested in?
Listen, I'm not MGTOW. Let's get this out the way.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
But I see what you're getting at, that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just saying.
You know what I mean? I roll with the red pill community. I'm not MGTOW, all right?
Look, I'm just saying, because at least I can say with Cynthia G, she says black male worship. She don't do like Kevin Samuels and say modern women. You understand?
Here's the thing, like, Kevin Samuels is not the only dude with this
I know.
red pill knowledge. I mean, he's the forefront because he's the most famous, but the guy that really runs the manosphere is O'Shea, not him.
Yeah.
Kevin Samuels set him up to see what's good. To roll with the manosphere. You know what I mean? Well, the black manosphere.
Okay, so look at O'Shea do Jackson. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Miss Sandy.
Are you implying aesthetically he's not inclined? Is that what you're implying?
What I'm saying is,
that's not right.
What I'm saying is, look. What I'm saying is, what happens is when people, I'm going to take it all the way back down to the baseline of description. Okay. When I talk about police officers, how they become brutal types of police officers, what happens to people that were the kids in school that got bullied all the time?
Oh, you think they become police officers?
Wait. What happens to that kid? The kid that was considered a dork, awkward, socially awkward, undesired, not cute, didn't get no girl.
Okay. So you're insinuating that this was O'Shea, him growing up.
No. They become fresh and fit.
That's why she's laughing.
Okay.
They become fresh and fit.
So Jessica is on it. Jessica is on it. They seek control. They want to control something. Right, Miss Andy, right. So it didn't kill them, but it did kill their ego. It didn't kill them, but it did kill their self-esteem at that stage of their development where their congruency of self was pivotal through that stage of identity crisis. So when they evolve into the next state in the following states of identity crisis, which is young adulthood and then midlife crisis, before they get to that end stage life crisis where they're going through autonomy versus shame, they're constantly trying to find something, someone, some element that they can control. And typically that control, that mindset that they have is geared towards dethroning the things that prevented them from stepping into a place where they were accepted by their peers at that earlier phase of development.
Oh, what you mean by that? Like,
so if you look at the guy that is the unpopular guy, right, in high school, I can guarantee you, and
okay,
this is
okay,
just,
is that what you meant? Overcompensating for lack
there you go.
in prior time? Okay, you should
Yeah,
have just said that. But okay, I see where you're getting at. Because he was not
popular,
popular.
right? Whatever.
Was just because he wasn't popular. You're saying that it's in that pivotal moment affected his personality to want him
It
for him
did.
to want to be in control of everything.
Yep, in control of something that dethrones the things or the people, the types of personalities that prevented him from stepping into spaces of acceptance previously.
I mean,
I can guarantee you, if you go back and you look at the
if that's
yearbook
true,
of,
because we don't know if he was.
I'm a profiler. It's real easy. So, real easy. I don't even have to
don't
go
know
and do
that.
the research.
We
I'll
can't
test you
assume
guys.
that he wasn't a man back in the day. We don't know that. You know what I mean?
I can. So, look, it's a science to this. It's a science to behavior. You got to understand how this stuff works. How do you think the FBI, how do you think we're able to profile people so easily? Behaviors are common characteristics amongst types of people that have had certain types of exposure.
Okay. All right.
So I can guarantee you, if you went back to the history books, whatever class that he was in, whatever people who went to school with him, these are a couple of things that you're going to find about O'Shea Duke Jackson. He was the guy that didn't have somebody that was his prom date. He was the guy that didn't have somebody that wanted to go out on a date with him in middle school. By the time he got to high school, he had to find ways to make people like him, either by athletics, and if he failed in the physical department, he had to make people laugh, so he had to become the funny guy. And if he failed at becoming the funny guy, he still was socially awkward. He became the mean guy by the time he made it to college. If he made it to college, and then he had to pledge in order to feel.
He's in med school. He's in med school, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then he had to pledge in order to have a sense of self or congruence, because he needed to feel, needed. So, and then they typically become overachievers for said reason.
Hey, Jessica and Miss Sandra, don't be trying to co-sign with Dr. J. Be on team Dr. J. She's right. She is right. I ain't hearing that.
It's not. I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, it's basic profiling.
I ain't hearing none of that.
I knew this based off of the first intro to one of his videos. I couldn't even watch the video just because of the intro.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not here to bash O'Shea, but okay.
I'm not bashing it. Well, I mean, that's not bashing. So, looking at the realities of a person.
Let me tell you why.
How is that bashing?
You're saying that he was a geek back in the day.
Right.
He had no control over his own life. And now that he became somebody, he's lashing out to the people I guess he's lashing out on women. Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't have to be women. So oftentimes we look at the targets by looking at the arguments, right? People look at Kevin Samuels also and they say, oh, the target is women. It has nothing. Kevin Samuels' issue, his target is not women. I don't think y'all are hearing a word I say when I review Kevin Samuels stuff. Kevin Samuels' target is the successful male that has been married in a relationship and has been successful in achieving his goals from his primary occupation that he pursued straight out of high school going into college, or whatever it is that he decided to do. His point of contention is men, not women. Go back and look at that man's first content. What's wrong with y'all? I don't know how men could be so blind.
Well, we wasn't talking about Kevin. We were talking about O'Shea.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing with O'Shea. I haven't watched enough of his content to see who the people are that he is targeting, but you got to look at who who was the point of contention, right? Who is he drawing people away from? That's how you'll know what the target is.
You know, to be honest with y'all, I never looked at any O'Shea content.
Yeah, I
Maybe
didn't
I
look
need
at.
to.
I couldn't make it. I could not make it through
I,
that video after I saw
yo,
it's
he got
your
good
boy.
content, man.
Oh,
It's
okay. I was
good.
like, no, yeah,
Nah,
no.
nah, 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 nah. I ain't gonna let y'all bash him like that. He got
I
good
can't.
content.
There is not. It's not bashing. I don't know why you think
Yep.
that is, but I'm just saying this is my review.
I'm not bashing him neither. I just say I
Yeah, I
just
don't know
never
the guy.
viewed any of his content before. But maybe I need to want to check it out. Crazy part about it is that I'm subscribed to his page, but I just never took the time out to look at his content yet. But I will.
Yeah. So my thing is, it doesn't make him a bad person either, but that's what shapes the behaviors of people. If you see people who are very anti people, for the most part, it's because they got all of this attention and it was unwarranted in their childhood. If you see, and it's something that will continue. People who are naturally popular don't have to continue to push and do all of these things and dethrone other people to be popular. They just don't, because they have a secure sense of self. So they're not out here to take down people or to bash people one way or the other. That's just not how it works for them. It's just about, whatever it is they do or do not agree with, as far as like the issues or whatever, if they combat issues that are happening in current society. So
I mean, I see what you're getting at. I mean,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the final minute of this show. I want to first of all, I thank all the members who are in the chat right now who are out here who are rocking with us, rocking with me as well. I appreciate y'all coming in as well. Want to
shout out
encourage y'all
to
to. Oh yeah, I want y'all to go ahead and continue to follow the official urban therapist as well. Follow the content. As you know, I'm on YouTube and Facebook and all these other platforms that I mentioned. But I want to also give my guests on the panel time to just to shout out their content and give final thoughts as well. Then after that, I'll come back.
Okay, so I am Dr. Jefferson, and you can find me on my platform. I think if you're looking on YouTube, it may just be Dr. LaKeonda Jefferson, but you can also hashtag DocLQJ Speaks or Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. It's also a hashtag. So I guess you can do that to get to my channel. I feel like this was a great topic for discussion tonight. I feel like sometimes we have to look at the greater picture, because people, just like fruit, are oftentimes influenced by the folks that are around them. So you have some really, really great people, great personalities that are sometimes poisoned with society, with media, with the exposure to media. And that's why I tell people to learn to turn the TV off. Like, stop watching the news, because it can literally influence the congruence that you have within yourself. Literally, you don't realize that after you watch the mood, now you're sad, or now you're angry, or now you're mad after you've watched, for example, the George Floyd situation. You may have, before seeing that event happen, you may have already had your preconceived notions about the fact that police brutality is a thing. You had your personal experiences, but it gave you a renewed sense of hatred for not only police officers, but white people. This happened to several Black people. So we have to understand that there are influences on us as we are connected to other elements in our society that definitely look like us, move like us, or they're connected to us in a cultural way. And so we have to be people who are advocates of congruence of self, who are advocates of our own maturation and growth, and do the work that's needed for us to elevate ourselves outside of or above our situations, right? So those are my thoughts. As the official urban therapists always say, continue to fight fate with faith. You have to be hopeful, that something different is going to come out on the other side of things. And you do have to know when to let things go, because not everything in your life is meant to be longitudinal. Some things are meant for a short season, and you got to let that thing go. The longer you let it manifest and harvest and stay inside of your space, the more toxic and rotten that thing becomes. So those are my 2 cents. Follow me for accountability conversations around our community issues and things that influence our community on Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. Later days.
Yo, I don't got a YouTube, but man, I'll be around. Last words I got for y'all. Yo, seek wisdom, practice humility, and remain sucker free.
Now, Dr. J gonna know good and well, and I'm gonna talk about her.
You gonna learn today.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what she did, y'all. See, y'all didn't catch it, but I did. First of all, she gonna cam up purposely, right? She gonna set up her cam up purposely. Then she's gonna be that rotten apple. I was gonna be a rotten apple in the group who want to steal each other catchphrases. I can't even say my catchphrase now because she didn't use it. I can't even say her catchphrase because she didn't use it. I can't even say Rush catchphrase because he didn't use it. I don't even got a catchphrase no more.
Nah, I mean.
I guess I gotta use that. Nah, I mean. Boy, y'all. I'll tell you, colored people always be cutting up. Especially after 11 o'clock. Y'all just be cutting up, boy.
Y'all see that influence? They influencing me. Negative influence. Nah, I mean, stay sucker free. I'm gonna make that my next outro.
Stay sucker free for life, huh?
Yeah, sucker free for life. Nah, I mean.
Hey man, don't be stealing my y'all. I'm about to copyright that shit.
Well, y'all wild in the world, man. Y'all wild. But yeah, once again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I appreciate my guest panelists like always. Follow Dr. Jefferson if you haven't. Go ahead and follow her as well. Follow Rush. He's going to eventually have a YouTube page called Sucker Free for Life. So be looking out for that in the future.
Oh yeah.
Later, guys.
Later, and y'all continue to fight fate with faith. All right. See y'all next time. Bye-bye.